housing and car expenses, the biggest two expenses that any American household has. And since inflation is through the roof, I'm finding ways how I can own cool cars and houses for basically free. That's what I'm focusing on.
You're a pioneer at doing this. I don't feel like you've been doing that.
I am honored, but I don't think so, because I'm learning from a few other creators. I'm doing it in my own way for sure. There are some car hackers that do it on a exotic level.
Oh, okay.
But with everyday cars and with any budget, even like $2,000-$3,000 budget, yeah, I'm doing it on my own with my own experience and knowledge. Maybe pioneering cheap cars, yes.
Oh. Well, hello.
Hello, Violet. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, no, I'm happy you're here. We love having you.
Thank you.
So good morning. So can you please kind of introduce yourself, tell us what you do for a living, and, we want to get to know you on a more personal level.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Red, and I moved to the U.S. about 8 years ago. What I do now is I mostly focus on hacking cars and houses. And housing and car expenses, the biggest two expenses that any American household has. And since inflation is through the roof, I'm finding ways how I can own cool cars and houses for basically free. That's what I'm focusing on.
Wow. You're a pioneer at doing this. I don't feel like you've been doing that.
Car hack. I'm honored, but I don't think so.
No?
Because I'm learning from a few other creators. I'm doing it in my own way for sure. There are some car hackers that do it on a exotic level.
Oh, okay.
But with everyday cars and with any budget, even like $2,000-$3,000 budget, yeah, I'm doing it on my own with my own experience and knowledge. So maybe pioneering cheap cars, yes.
Oh, okay.
And
I wouldn't call them cheap because you just bought that classic Mercedes. That's insane.
Yes, it's BMW.
It's a BMW. Okay.
Yes.
It's 740, is that what it is?
Yes, it's 740, the E38, and it's the most beautiful sedan ever made.
It is a beautiful.
And it's actually a car culture icon because it's the only four-door sedan that was ever in a James Bond movie, and then Tupac was gunned down in the same car.
Wow, in that same car?
Yes.
Oh,
and
wow.
Jason Statham got famous in the Transporter, and he was driving the E38 7 Series.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I love leveraging the looks of it and the uniqueness of it and how cheap it is. And I get a lot of admiration from people. Like people driving Lexus RX 350 that cost $50,000 come to me like when I'm guessing. Yes.
Even I look at it and your vehicle's super clean.
Yes, that's what yes.
Gorgeous, clean lines.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating about cheap cars, when economy goes through choppy cycles, when everything is down, all asset classes, the only asset class that goes up in value is cheap in-demand cars, which is around anywhere from like $3,000 to $10,000 cars actually go up in value every time. And the indicator for any financial crisis that are about to start is the auto car loans.
Oh, okay.
The same happened in dot-com bubble. If you go look at the data, same thing happened during financial crisis of 2008, 2009. Way before houses and private equity companies and stock market crashed, auto loans were actually in a delinquency.
Oh, wow.
And same happening right now.
Wow.
We're in over, I believe, $4 trillion in auto loans delinquency right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're from?
So I'm from Middle Asia, small country called Tajikistan.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a very small country, less than 7 million people. I grew up very...
Yes.
I was rich in relationships in my parents and my family and friends, but we were pretty poor financially. But we had everything we needed just to live a life, simple life.
Wow.
Yeah, but I wanted something more for my own sake and my to provide for my family in the future. And that's why I needed to become the member of my family that can break the chain of poverty and change the generational lineage of my future family forever.
You came by yourself?
Yes. I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. That's when I decided to leave. And
how do you make a decision like that? Did you make it, or did your parents say go? Or
No,
that
no.
Oh,
I don't think any parents would say to their kids at 16, go leave, you can't be here anymore. But it's just something I wanted. I felt like I am responsible for the future of my family. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm the oldest kid in my family. But I remember vividly when I was about 12 years old, I was going to this summer camp. And I told my mom, hey, mom, whenever I get a first chance to leave the house, I will. And that chance appeared when I was 16 years old. At the time, I was fighting, and that helped me to travel. So it was.
fighting. So what do you mean by you were fighting?
Yeah, since I was 9 years old, I got into martial arts.
Okay.
And not because I wanted, but because I needed it to be for my looks.
Oh.
Because of my looks, actually. So as you might know, kids pick on you if you look different. And I was so different, like literally physically, with red hair and freckles, and I would get harassed, beat up just for my looks. And even in my own family, I'm the only kid in my big family, like with my cousins and stuff. My grandparents had 9 kids. I was the only one with red hair and this white. So even within my cousins sometimes would do the same. So I decided to stand up for myself and just end this nonsense.
Self-defense?
Yes, I got into Greco-Roman wrestling at 9 years old. My only friend when I was a kid, he was a really talented fighter, and it's coming from his dad because his dad was a professional wrestler. So since he was 3 years old, he was already wrestling.
Oh, wow.
So he brought me into that, and he was the only kid in the whole school, my whole childhood, who wasn't really making fun of my looks.
Oh, wow.
He was actually truly my best friend when I was a kid, and he brought me to martial arts.
And so people know, how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
Okay.
So for Asian, that's pretty
tall?
abnormal. Yeah.
I took a picture yesterday, side by side. I'm 4'11", just for reference.
You got Lady Gaga's height, by the way.
Really? Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. She's 4'11".
Yes,
so
yes,
there's a
it's
big
wonderful.
height difference. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but my parents are pretty short. My mom 5'4", my dad is 5'7", but I got my granddad's genes from my mom's side, and now I'm grateful because it's for a man, I believe it's pretty important to be like 6 foot and taller, even though you're in like 8 or 9% of population if you're 6 foot or taller. So it's not like super.
It's interesting what you were picked on as a child.
Yes.
I think it's a benefit for you now.
Yes.
Right? Unfortunately, we're in a society where looks matter.
I mean, yes, you don't have to be born with specific features on your face that we consider beautiful, like all these standards. But I think how you present yourself physically, and what I mean by that, you're fit, right? And then what you wear and what you drive is a lot more important.
Right.
House is also important, but you cannot pull up to your friend's party in your house. You can do that in your car.
Right.
And car will open a lot of doors. That's what I've been leveraging, and I've been enjoying.
Yeah,
yes,
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. In my younger years, I drove a lot more bigger, nicer, expensive cars. As I'm maturing, it's not as important to me. But in my younger years, I needed to prove myself. I needed a certain standard.
Yes.
But at this age, it's like.
Well, you already got it all, right? For the most part. I know you're very ambitious still, and there's nothing wrong with that. You always want to strive for improvements and bettering yourself and wanting more. Yeah. That's just human nature, and we should go for it.
Yeah, but as you're younger, you're establishing yourself.
Yes.
You're creating a reputation for yourself. That is very important.
Yes, and I truly think life is too short to drive boring cars, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's as a man, I would say, like that's our toys just get bigger. Our toys never change; they get bigger as we grow older, right? And another important thing that I am super grateful that my friend did when he brought me into martial arts, I started since I was 9-10 years old, really caring and focusing on my health.
Okay.
And now it's paying off really greatly because all these years, it's a compound effect.
Right.
In its beauty, right? So I don't have to push myself to go and hit the gym 4 or 5 times a week. It's part of my identity.
It's an automatic.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like brushing my teeth before I go to bed. Right. It's engraved so deeply in my identity, and now I'm reaping the fruits of all these years that I put and sweat at the gym, training, and doing martial arts.
I see you every day. When you post that you're working out, you're extremely fit.
Oh, thank you.
And I wonder, how did you start? And I think you've answered that question. How did you start the journey of getting fit, getting healthy? But it all started really young, right? As
Yes.
you started wrestling.
Yes, yes.
Was there any discussions of health and eating right at your home with your parents when you were young?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I wouldn't refer to my family as fit.
Okay.
I'm the only one. I measure fit for a younger man as having abs.
Okay.
That's the proof, right?
Okay.
And my family, none of them have abs.
Okay.
I had them since I was 9, which is pretty easy. I'm not degrading you if you don't have abs, but that's my standard. If I don't have my abs, there's something wrong with me.
Okay.
I always had them. That's part of my identity, and it's, for me, extremely important.
Okay.
And a fascinating fact that I learned at one of the events that you and I attend pretty often, WealthCon.
Yes.
I remember one of the speakers was saying, it is 3 times harder to get abs than become a millionaire. There's only 2% of population in the U.S. Yes.
Yeah.
2% of population in the U.S. who have abs, and only 6% who are millionaires. So that's literally 3x difference.
Right. So if you accomplish the hard things now, everything else becomes easier.
Yeah.
I think that's such a standard for me as an immigrant. I think because if you have it rough, growing up or, gaining access to things, as you grow older or as in your journey, I think it just feels so much easier.
Yes.
But for me as an immigrant, I've had a lot of hurdles in my life. And so now that I'm doing this, it's like, okay.
It's not that hard, right?
Work,
yeah.
Versus harder things.
And I'm so into that as well. I truly appreciate all the struggles that I had as a kid growing up. We didn't even have electricity growing up, really.
Okay.
And then I'm coming here, people of like my generation, my age in America, they are pretty soft. Right now, we're in a very high inflationary market, and everything is super expensive, and people losing their jobs. But at the same time, they're losing their minds too. I truly believe hard times create great people, and great people create hard times, and it's just a cycle that never ends, right? And 90s and early 2000s were really easy in America. Mm-hmm. That's when I was a kid, and that's what we're seeing. Lots of people suffering from mental disease, right? They're in depression, they're stressed out, and they're spending too much time in their head and creating problems. And humans' brain designed in a way to create problems even if there is no problem.
Fear.
Yes,
fear,
exactly.
Right? You get anxiety, you get fear. But it's also interesting, you talk about health, and I think everything's connected.
Uh-huh.
So if you're eating junk food, that causes anxiety.
Oh, 100%.
It's all connected to mental health.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important. For myself as a child, I was never taught this is what you should be eating, this is how you should be treating your body, this is what you should be putting in your body. So I've had to learn that as an adult. And having a genetic that have really slow metabolism in my family, it's such a learning curve, right? And it's so hard to break those chains, because now I have my children that didn't know. I couldn't teach them what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Right? I could, so now that I'm learning all these things, I'm trying to teach them, but they're already getting in the older age where, oh, okay, it's harder for me for them to get it, versus when they were younger, I could have taught them.
That is such a great point.
Yes. And so it's harder for me to teach them now, but they're coming along slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And so we had this conversation before where, sometimes you wonder, why aren't people taking care of their health? And in my situation, it wasn't even a thought growing up. It was more, my mom was a single mom with 3 girls. She used to go to work at 6 a.m, get out at 10 at night. Yeah. I used to get home from school. There was nobody there. There's no meals prepared. There's none of that. Yeah. I used to go in the fridge, and I was lucky to find food there. So whatever there was, I ate. There was no such thing as being conscious of what I was eating.
Wow.
And so I think um, I think for you that could have been an advantage, mom, dad at home, and
Yes.
also your ethnicity. You guys tend to eat a little bit on the healthier
Yeah.
side, right?
Yeah, we grow our own produce for the most part,
Yeah.
right? Veggies, fresh fruits, our garden, and the climate where I'm from is very um, friendly for a lot of fruit trees, and we had all of them.
Yes. Same as El Salvador, where
Yes,
I'm
that's
from.
right.
But we came here. Well, I came here when I was 6 years old, and
Oh,
cereal and whatever America, quickly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes. So yeah, I'm sure that's such a great perspective because that's all I knew, eating whole foods,
Hmm.
right? Real food.
Right.
And my mom was, yeah, I